Welcome to grade 7 social science class. Today we are going to learn the first chapter in history, tracing changes over 1000 years, that is 700 to 1750 AD. Historians divided Indian history into three phases, that is ancient history, medieval history and modern history. In grade 6, we have learnt about the ancient period, that is up to 700 AD. In grade 7, we are going to learn from 700 to 1750 AD. This period is called the medieval period. Medieval means middle. You will study the modern period in your higher classes. Under medieval period, we are going to learn about the social, economic and political changes that took place during this period. Also, we are going to learn about the various kingdoms arose during this period and about the various religions gained importance during this period. The first thing we need to understand is cartography. The art of map making is called cartography. During this medieval period, the art of map making known as cartography was prevalent. As a result, many maps were designed by many cartographers. A cartographer is a person who draws map of continents and even the world. Among the cartographers, a famous Arab cartographer, Al-Idrisi, maps found relevant and his map was used for 3 centuries. The features of his map was it was drawn upside down, that is Sri Lanka on the top and the North India was found at the bottom. As similar portions were depicted bigger in this map, his maps were found good. In his maps, he tried to show the real picture of the physical geography of a particular region. The names on the maps were written in Arabic. Next came a French geographer. He gave the maps of European countries and other newly discovered countries like America. His maps gave a clear picture about the coastal areas of India, and he mentioned some of the regions of India, example Kannauj in Uttar Pradesh. These maps helped to understand the economic and social life of the people of that particular region and made it easier for the invaders from other continents to come to India. The sailors and the navigators got clear idea about the location of places. Map making formed the basis for the invaders to have an idea about the regions, and it helped them to plan out their strategy to reach Indian subcontinent. For example, the French geographer gave an idea of the regions of Uttar Pradesh, that is Kannauj in Uttar Pradesh, during 720 AD. Which was used by various sailors and navigators. On the other side, the social and the economic life of the people were very different. When we talk about social life before 700 AD, people lived in forested areas. Later, they shifted to agriculture and they started living in a permanent place, that is, they started a settled life, leaving their hunting and gathering and became agriculturists. All these kind of changes occur with the progress during the medieval period. Now we see the old and the new terminologies used by the people. That is, the name of the places or some word was different. People used different words in different places. There were different terms used by different people during different times. For example, the name of our country in modern period is called India, whereas during medieval period it was called Hindustan. Another chronicler, Amir Khusro, he gave the name as Hind for India. Next we take an example of a word, that is a foreigner. What's the meaning of the word foreigner now? We mean a person who is not a citizen of our country, residing in some other country, we consider him as a foreigner. But in those days during the medieval period, people consider a person who is living in the next village or the other village inside the same country as foreigner. Any outsider was considered as a foreigner. The next thing during the medieval period is Prashastis. Prashastis were common during that time. Prashasti means exaggeration of facts. In those days, the chroniclers and the historians, they exaggerated, that is, talking more about than the real things. Minhaj-e-Siraj, the chronicler, tries to explain that the extent of Muhammad bin Tughluq and Delhi Sultanate as vast empires. He mentions that from his kingdom extended from Punjab to Bengal, and it included the land between Ganga and Yamuna. Historians consider these kind of informations were exaggeration of facts. Prashastis was done during this medieval period. So the next important topic we need to learn here is, how do we know about this period? We have studied in grade 6 the sources that helped us to learn about the past history. Historians and their source give us enough information about the medieval period. The main sources are the coins, manuscripts, inscriptions and archaeology we see, and the written records. In grade 6, you have studied about manuscripts, inscriptions and archaeology. A manuscript is a handwritten information on soft objects like palm leaves. Inscriptions are informations written on hard surfaces, on stones, pillars, etc. And archaeology from the excavated informations gathered from the excavated objects. During this period, paper became very cheaper and manuscripts were copied on paper. Handwritten records were copied on paper. These handwritten copies were about the rulers, their ruling, their victories and religious teachings. They made records. Their teachings, the religious people made their teachings as records. Official documents were recorded and judicial records were also recorded by hand on manuscripts. Now we see about an important person called a scribe. Who is a scribe? A scribe is a person who copies the information from manuscripts to paper. Scribe is a copyist. There were many problems during copying during the medieval period. During copying, there were many changes occurred in the original manuscripts and the meanings were also changed. The old manuscripts were collected by wealthy people, rulers and in temples and monasteries. Later, they were placed in libraries and archives. Archive is a place like library where documents are kept safe. One of the famous scribes, Ghiyasuddin Baruni, copied a manuscript in 1356. After 2 years, he copied another one also. These were found in the archives about 1971 only. There was no printing press that time. Handwritten copies were the manuscripts were written by hand only. That time writings were in different fashions. Some were very difficult to understand, some were very easy to understand. There were two common writing styles in Persian. One was Nishtali style. That was like cursive style, which was easier to read. The other one was Shikastic. That is, that writing was very difficult to read. Next, we see about the important innovations during the medieval period between 700 to 1700 AD. People changed their forest dwellings, that is, they came out of the forest and made their settlements. They became agriculturists. They started doing agriculture. They invented new things to support their way of life. Sudden changes took place in the social and economic life of the people. The invention of wheel was the basis for the development of human life. Wheel was invented. It helped them to go from place to place. They invented the Persian wheel, which helped them to draw water for agriculture. Later, the spinning wheel was discovered, which helped them spin the thread and was very useful for weaving. Firearms were used for combat methods, and people's life slowly experienced a change from the ancient to the medieval period. The next important development was the invention of new crops. New crops like potatoes, corn, tea, chili were discovered. People started cultivating all these crops. Then the next important one is the development of new social groups in the society. Small social groups like the Rajputs, Marathas, Sikhs, Jats, Ahoms and Kayasthas developed during this period. The medieval period was a great period of mobility, that is, people travelled all over the subcontinent in search of opportunities. The important group of people were the Rajputs. The term Rajput applied to a group of warriors who claimed Kshatriya caste status. Extreme courage and great sense of loyalty were the qualities of the Rajputs. Other groups such as the Marathas, Jats, Sikhs, Ahoms and Kayasthas also used the opportunities of the age to become politically important. People cleared the forest and extended agricultural lands. Changes took place in the lifestyle of people. The social and economic life also got changed. Now we see what were the important changes took place during the medieval period. People cleared the forest to extend their agricultural lands. They moved from the forest and settled near the river valleys and plains. People became farmers and peasants. Trade started. People started selling their extra produce. Regional markets developed for trade. Leaders, priests and chieftains arose. Temples and monasteries came up. Large complex societies developed. The society means the society started paying tax. Goods and services were offered to local lords. People grouped under Jatis and sub-castes were developed. Jatis and castes were ranked on the basis of their background and occupations. Ranks of caste were not fixed permanently. Each caste was different according to their power, influence and the resources controlled by them. Jatis formed their own rules and regulations to manage the conduct of their members. Jati Panchayats had chieftains and leaders to regulate their rules. The next important one is the regions and the empire. During this period, rulers like the Cholas, the Tughluqs and the Mughals controlled many regions. Example, a Prashasti about Ghiyasuddin Balban. He was a famous Sultan of slave dynasty. You will study about him under the chapter Delhi Sultanate. His empire was very vast, stretched from Bengal in the east to Ghazni in Afghanistan in the west, included all the South Indian regions. He subdued the rulers of Andhra, Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra and Gujarat. But historians did not accept this, as they considered this as an exaggeration of his conquest. But it says that these rulers had many regions under their kingdom. They controlled all these places. Dynasties like Cholas, Khiljis, Tughluqs and Mughals were able to build an empire including many regions that was pan-regional. All these empires were not successful. When the Mughal Empire declined, it led to the re-emergence of regional independent state later. This is an example. Old and new religions. To understand the medieval period, we have to understand three major phases. They are Hindu, Muslim and the British. First, we see about the Hindus. Hindus believed in supernatural agency called religion. They advocated idol worship, worship of deities, construction of temples and so on. During the medieval period, the idea of bhakti came into the society. Bhakti means devotion to God. Bhakti saints preach that one can reach God by devotion to God without the aid of priests and costly rituals. Now we see about the Muslims. Islam was brought into our country by the Arab merchants. They believed in one God, Allah. They brought Quran, their holy book, to India. The Arab merchants brought Quran to India. There were two groups in Muslims, Shias and the Sunnis. The Shia Muslims consider Ali as the leader, who was the son-in-law of Prophet Muhammad. Whereas the Sunnis considered caliphs as their leaders. Then the next thing we need to see here is the time of historical period. The British historians divided Indian history into three periods. We have seen Hindu, Muslim and British. They made the divisions on the basis of time and historical periods. These 100,000 years of Indian history, that is from 700 to 1750 AD, witnessed many changes. Societies got transformed. Economy of societies reached the level of prosperity that attracted the European countries to establish trading centers in our country, India. After 1750, the period was referred to as modern period. During modern period, modernity came with it a sense of moderate progress and intellectual advancement. About the modern period, you will learn in your higher classes. So, in this lesson, we have learned about the social, economic, cultural changes and about the religious groups, about the small groups and everything. In the next video, we can see the next chapter. Thank you.